Oh, good night. No, welcome or welcome back. Tonight's topic, well, we're at week 11. Again, I'm proud of myself for making it this far. Tonight's topic is about how I use AI and automation to decrease the stress and overwhelm and everything in my own business. So, how I use it without burning out. And I am hoping that tonight the technology is on my side because I want to share my screen. Um, so hopefully the software works out and you guys can see and follow along, or at least get a better idea of some of the things I was talking about even from last week when we started on the AI topics. Oh, and also another reminder, well, some disclaimers. I did not get a chance to even review any of my notes today before this session. So again, hopefully my memory is working. And one reminder I wanted to give, or more a little pep talk, is I find Bajans, I've said this already, to be stuck on the academic side of things instead of being willing to try something and fail or just take action. And that is what's keeping you stagnated. It's not bashing any one nationality. I mean, I'm Barbadian, can't be bashing. But at the same time, I find that out of some of the Caribbean islands, like the Jamaicans I know, they're always the more willing ones to say take action when they find out about something. The trainees I know, and there's always the Bajans that stay very timid, and I think it is one of the, dare I say, the downsides to being so stuck on just the academic side of things, where the Bajans love the planning phase, the research phase. They're comfortable there. But if you stay doing the same thing you've always done, you will get the same kind of results you've always gotten. So this is just a little, like I said, hopefully you find some sort of inspiration in my words when I say you have to be willing to at least try. I always tell people when I do say the more hands-on one-on-one consulting, what is the worst that happens when you try something, even if you fail? I think people tend to create all of these stories in their own minds, and things start to snowball before they've even taken step one. And with that being said, I actually sent out last month's newsletter. So the newsletter for April, just at the end of April. And I had a completely different idea in mind for it at first. But then I said, I don't know, it hit me that I think Bajans need to hear, especially your first business does not have to be your forever business, meaning you can change it, And I find up to today, I had a talk with one of my very close friends. He's going through some struggles with some business ideas he had and was finding it very overwhelming. And I'm like, I said the same thing, where you can start with something that is way simpler, that just gets you the income you need to stay afloat, get profitable, all of that, and you can change later. They just tend to take on a mammoth task as their first business. And like I said, as opposed to maybe being mindful that you can change it if and when you want to. But anyway, um, as I said, how I use AI and automation to run my business. So this is how I remove a lot of the overthinking, the stress from my business using systems and AI. And if you've been following any of the weeks, you know I am big on strategy and systems and using tools for the modern era. I think I said it last week. If you have a tree to cut down and you have a chainsaw, an axe, a knife, a spoon, they can all work, but I am sure you would take a million times as long to chop down a tree with a spoon. So that is like, again, riding a donkey as opposed to using a car modern day. If you use the right tools for the era you are in, you are surely guaranteed to make your life and business easier and money making easier. It is really that simple. It doesn't always mean that it's easy every step of the way, but it is that simple. So last week I showed you something very important, which is that you're likely using AI wrong, in the sense of just scratching the surface and barely letting it work for you the way it can, like the tool it is. And that's not because you can't use it, but maybe no one showed you how exactly to think of it or ways you could better utilize it. So this week I want to show you something different, because it's one thing to understand AI, but it's another thing to apply it and use it in real life. So I didn't want to just be talking about it every week, since we started the topic last week. So I'm going to show you some of the back end on how I actually run my business and some of the systems I set up for other people that helps them run their business easier and do the same. And this is especially important if you have a solo operation, a small business, but it is also scalable. The same principles work regardless of the size of the business. You need good systems. But this keeps me from being overwhelmed every day. So some people, it's gotten so bad since I work for myself that some people think I do nothing all day. It's not that, it's that I've created great systems for the business I wanted to do. Um, anyway, so the systems philosophy I have, I just needed to understand how I think before I get into it, because what I'm about to show you is not random, it is very much intentional. As in, my philosophy has always been that it should only take something happening once for you to put something in place for it, so it doesn't keep happening again and again and again. And if something, for example, confuses a customer or client even one time, I look to put something in place so that doesn't happen again. If I have any hiccups, if I forget something, I create a system. If something takes too long once, I create a system. So it's the solution I use for pretty much every step of my own business. And it's as simple as, I don't like time wasting. Anyone who knows me knows I highly value my time. I'm a stickler for it. And I don't like solving the same problem twice. Put something in place so it doesn't happen again. I am fine to solve new problems. I feel like it's time wasting to keep solving the exact same problem over and over again, especially when you've learned from it and you know better. So sometimes, and I've lived by this, not even just in my own business, but I was doing this for years, even in my career in the corporate world. So again, the principles don't change; they work regardless. And sometimes systems weren't even as complex as software. Systems can just be habits. So, for example, every single day I would go into work and I used to drill my staff with the same thing. Um, I would make the more menial and routine tasks just that, routine, so that I don't have to use brain space and brain power to do just simple tasks every day. I would go in, turn on my office light, turn on the computer, check my emails, and just make that simple thing a habit. And that is a system. You understand? So when leaving work, same thing. I would shut down the computer, turn off the lights, lock up. Now that allowed me not to tax my brain with trying to remember extra, like I said, trivial stuff when I have better things to be doing than wondering, okay, did I turn off the computer? Did I turn off the light? I know I have good habits and a good system for that, so I set it and forget it. Even things like meetings. And trust me, we had this one job, I had this daily 10 o'clock meeting every single day. I mean it. And um, it would be a waste, in my opinion, to try to have to remember that every single day on my own, when I have other things going on. So if it was the only thing I had every day, perhaps I would remember it easily, yes. But I was juggling a million things. I was head of the certifications. I was lead auditor. I was in charge of the three quality assurance labs. I had a lot of stuff going on, and that doesn't even scratch the surface with personal life. So I set a basic calendar reminder that would just recur every single day at, say, 15 minutes and 5 minutes to the hour. So I know, okay, just walk across to the boardroom and that's it. Meanwhile, people would be impressed, like, how are you always on time and why are you so organized? But just a simple system I put in place to deal with myself. Now, even in terms of writing things down, I don't solely rely on memory. I create systems for that. I rely on systems. So I would make lists if I had to and cross things off. And that even gives you, like, an internal momentum. So systems don't always have to be software, as I said. Sometimes they're just simple habits that you build. Now, you've probably heard the phrase prevention is better than cure. So here's the balance. I firmly believe in that phrase, but I also build with flexibility in mind, because no matter how well you plan for something, um, some problems will always show up. You can't plan for every single eventuality, but you can still build the best systems possible for your situation. So I build in flexibility simultaneously, so I don't have to wait for perfection, and I build and I test simultaneously and refine it as I go. So that is a word to the wise, like, you need to get started. Again, my Bajans love to make sure everything is perfect, but just remember, done is better than perfect. It's as simple as that. And I am a perfectionist, so when I say these things, it's not coming from a self-righteous place or a holier than thou place. It's because I fully get it. Trust me. Especially when it comes to anything creative or artistic, I would spend forever doing it if I had to, but I have to fight that side of myself to just get things done sometimes and move on to the next thing on the list. For example, when I was building the 24/7 receptionist offer that I have that people use to answer their messages, calls, and website chats. I didn't have everything together initially, but I didn't want to wait until it was perfect because I practice what I preach for the most part. I had someone test it from early. So shout out to Keisha. Thanks for being my tester. I told her to, okay, she has a service-based business, and that is, I was creating the solution primarily for service-based businesses like spas and I guess carpenters and anybody who provides services who tend to work with their hands mostly and can't answer the phones and messages all day every day. So I thought through the best solutions for that scenario, and one of them was an AI based receptionist. Again, using a modern tool, AI, to craft the best offer, a 24/7 receptionist that can answer messages and calls while you sleep or while you do your work, while you take breaks. So again, using these solutions for the times, that is how you create the amount of freedom and by extension income and everything that you want. Let me try to check. Okay. Okay, it was just checking the chat there. Yes, done is better than perfect. Okay, so I literally told the tester Keisha at the time, you know, this is what it's supposed to look like, but I didn't give her every single detail because I wanted her to have an authentic experience just testing my workflow, meaning from the landing page link that I sent her, where you have the button to click to purchase the receptionist. I let her walk through that. I asked her for feedback, like, okay, did you find anything confusing? Was this part easy to understand? There was then a setup form you had to fill out that you would get automatically because they have automatic workflows in place so that I don't have to worry that when somebody places an order, I have to go now and scramble and send them anything because it's all automated. See what I'm talking about again, using AI and automation for the modern era. Those are the tools to use right now. And I asked her, was anything unclear? Did anything slow you down? And as I got the feedback from her, I refined the system. Sometimes, as good as you may be, there are just some little things that you might not think of, or a few people might have slightly different preferences. And you try to do as best you can with accommodating any changes that are necessary. So remember, perfection is not the goal. Progress and incorporating that feedback make that the goal. So in terms of the walkthrough now, I really want to show you what it actually looks like because everything I just explained is really built into how I run my business. So step one, I create an offer. As I just mentioned, I realize a need, which was okay, people are often struggling to juggle messages and calls when they're working, or they just want time off, they want a break. And by extension, I created a solution for it using a modern tool, AI and automation. So right now, more and more the platforms come with a level of AI and automation built into them. So as I said before, Meta now owns Facebook, Instagram, and WhatsApp. And just a side note, as I said last week, if you're one of those people who's super paranoid about even trying AI, rest assured if you have a smartphone, you're already using it. If you have any of these kind of profiles, you're already using it. So I'm not saying to be reckless. Still protect yourself as best possible. Go watch last week's episode on some tips, but you have to try at least. So as I said, I create the offer. That's step one. Step two, what happens when someone buys? They go through the payment phase, confirmation, and next steps. And in some other episode, I'll go into details on how I accept online payments from Barbados because, yes, the options are still very limited for the Caribbean unless you have big bucks to start with, like one of the big corporations who can afford to use any of the solutions out there. But I collect my payments using Stripe, which is one of the top payment processors worldwide. So there is that. And all of this exists because I didn't want to deal with the same problem over and over again. Meaning, as I said, every time somebody buys, collecting, say, a manual payment or having to deal with cash or send them invoices manually, anything like that. So all of that is automated. Now, let me show you something because this is now where the AI comes in. I think my cousin's calling me, which means she can't be tuned into my live stream supporting me. Anyway, Oh, and next week, because I couldn't get it worked out for this week because of the same technology I was trying to set up. But next week, I should be able to just do a demo with an actual live call on how the AI receptionist handles actual live calls. So it's not pre planned responses, it responds real time to what the person is saying or asking. It can take bookings, it can, as in, book the actual sessions for them, anything like that. But I will still show you some of the back end of all of this. So let me switch to sharing my screen. And I just need at least one person in the chat to let me know if you can see what I am sharing on the screen. Oh, hi, Gavin. Well, thanks for tuning in. He's asking, what specific AI did I use to create the 24/7 receptionist? Oh, we would be here forever. I use a mix of the software I use, but it doesn't have a specific name. Most of the AI, so we're clear that you can say purchase or utilize are based on the same backend technology, meaning they're using OpenAI's API, which is ChatGPT, or Claude, or which is provided by Anthropic, another company, or I can see it's Nickel. I, yes, or one of the other AI companies, like say Microsoft or anybody. But most systems do tend to utilize ChatGPT in the background. But if you have like more, if you want more in-depth answers, I can cover that. You could just shoot me a message. The link to join my private community is in the description of pretty much every video. So you can just join there and DM me and we can chat away, really. I have no problem sharing, and I could do probably a more in-depth episode on that. Actually, yeah, next week, I think I can commit to doing a session where I show the calls real time. I just didn't want to risk it this week trying to pack in everything. I was asking if you guys can see the screen that I switched to. All right, I'm not seeing anything on WhatsApp or the chat, so I'll just assume y'all can see. Okay, thank you for confirming. Okay, so this is the software that I use to run my business. And also I set this up for other customers so that they can run their business. And as I said, it's especially great for people who are running a solo operation or a small business. So I won't go through every single one of the tabs. I'll just go through some of the more important ones. I don't want to scroll through all the conversations because that would disclose a lot of people's names if I, go all the way down the list. But in general, you can connect as many social profiles as you want here. So right